Queen Vera stood in the center of the grand hall, her tall frame silhouetted against the pale blue glow of the crystalline walls. Every facet of those walls caught the light and sent shards of color sweeping across the polished floor. She wore a flowing gown woven from silken strands mined from the ice fields of her homeworld. Even now, after a decade on the throne, she moved with the calm confidence of a ruler who knew her people and their needs better than anyone. The hall was otherwise empty, save for her advisors and the new security detail. A low hum of conversation followed behind her, but Vera paid it no heed. Her mind was focused on tomorrow's council meeting, where representatives from dozens of allied star systems would gather. Plans for a joint exploration of the neighboring nebula were already in motion. She intended to open the session by praising alien unity. Instead, she took one look at the human guard stepping forward and froze. Captain Jonah Reed wore a simple uniform of deep navy that contrasted sharply with his pale skin. His dark hair was cut short at the sides and left slightly longer on top, so that a few curls fell just above his steady brown eyes. He stood straight, his hands folded at his waist, and offered Vera a respectful bow. It was an ordinary gesture, yet somehow it carried enough warmth and strength that Vera's breath caught in her throat. For a moment, the hall grew silent. The advisors exchanged uneasy glances. Whispers filled the air like ghostly wings. Ministers paused in mid-stride. Even the crystalline light seemed to flicker, as if unsure where to settle. "Your Majesty," Jonah said in a voice both firm and gentle. Though he meant it as polite introduction, his words unlocked memories Vera had long buried. It was the same voice she had heard over and over in her dreams. Arlec's voice, smooth and rich, full of comfort and laughter. In her mind she saw him strolling among the ice fields, hand outstretched to guide her. In her heart, she felt the warmth he had once brought to a world that could be so cold. Her advisors bent forward, waiting for her command. Minister Solemn, her most trusted aide, inhaled sharply. "My queen," he prompted softly, trying to pull her back to the present. Vera blinked, as if rousing from a strange haze. She realized her left hand had drifted to the crystalline staff she carried, a symbol of her authority. She tightened her grip and let her breath out in a slow, controlled exhale. "Thank you, Captain Reed," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. She straightened her shoulders and lifted her chin. "Continue with your duties." Jonah inclined his head once more, paused for a heartbeat as if expecting more, then turned on his heel and rejoined the rest of his squad. The guard captain's back moved away in crisp, precise steps. Each step further from Vera seemed to snap her mind back into place. The ministers let out a collective sigh, and the hall came back to life. Vera raised her staff, and the crystalline light settled into their steady glow. She motioned for the guards to fall in formation at the edges of the hall, an unspoken command they obeyed without hesitation. Solemn hovered close to the queen's shoulder. "Majesty," he murmured, "if you wish, I can have Lieutenant Toros run a full background scan on Captain Reed. We must ensure he is not a threat." Vera studied the pale blue crystals on the wall. Their angles reminded her of Arlec's eyes, calm, unemotional, impossible to read. She did not answer for a moment. Then she shook her head gently. "Not yet," she said. "Let us not cast suspicion without cause." "But," Solemn began. "A moment more," she cut him off. "I need time to see if this is chance. If I find reason to doubt, then we will act." The minister bowed his head. Vera turned away from him, moving toward the tall archway that led to the council chambers. Her mind raced with questions she refused to voice aloud. How could one human copy the features and bearing of someone she had loved? Lord Arlec had disappeared years ago during a mission beyond the far edge of the nebula. No trace of his ship was ever found. Vera had accepted his loss, buried her grief under her duties as queen, and vowed never to let memory cloud her judgment again. Yet here stood Captain Jonah Reed, his presence a living echo of Arlec. He did not look sad or angry. He did not know of any resemblance. He simply stood guard, doing his duty. Outside the hall, the wind swept across the palace spires, carrying the frozen breath of the ice fields. Vera pulled her cloak tighter around her shoulders even though the temperature here was kept at a comfortable 20 degrees. She needed clarity. She needed to understand what this strange coincidence meant. The council chamber doors opened, and representatives from allied worlds passed by in small groups, chattering about scientific discoveries and trade pacts. They barely spared a glance at Vera, who was accustomed to such sidelining from the silent delegates. Their differences in biology, language, and history often made true unity elusive. Yet, Vera had always believed in it, had always worked to forge connections where none existed before. A faint smile tugged at the corner of her lips. She would not let a whisper of doubt derail her vision. Whether Jonah Reed was a mirror of her past or a simple twist of fate, she would learn the truth. But first she would carry out her duties. She would lead the council. She would show her people that the Queen remained steadfast and resolute, even if her heart wavered for a moment. With that resolve, Vera strode into the council chamber. The doors closed behind her with a soft chime, sealing away distraction and memory. The icy blue light of the hall gave way to the warmer glow of the council's central hearth. Delegates looked up, anticipation gleaming in their varied eyes. Queen Vera took her place at the head of the semicircular table. She lifted her hand to still the murmur of voices. "Honored friends," she began, voice strong and clear. "We gather at a turning point in our history. The neighboring nebula calls to us, full of possibilities for discovery and partnership. Today we will chart a new course, together." Behind her, the crystalline walls of the frozen throne shimmered, reflecting her image back at her. In that reflection, among the facets of crystal and light, she caught a glimpse of something more, the quiet strength of a queen who had faced loss, tempered doubt, and chosen unity over fear. She centered herself on that truth as the delegates leaned forward, ready to listen. And somewhere beyond the crystal doors of her private hall, Captain Jonah Reed stood watch, unaware of how deeply he had moved the heart of an alien queen. In time she would send for him again, but for now she would lead her people into a bold and hopeful future, and she would not let even her own memories hold her back. After the long council meeting, Queen Vera slipped away from the grand chambers to her private gardens. These gardens floated in a glass dome above the palace, filled with bioluminescent plants that glowed pale green and soft violet in the dim light. The air smelled of sweet nectar and frost, mixing into a scent that always reminded Vera of home. She walked slowly along the winding path, her fingers brushing the smooth leaves of the frost lily trees. Each step seemed to echo in her mind, carrying her back to a warmer time, back to the day she had first met Arlik. He had shown her a hidden grove in these very gardens, where the ice did not bite and the flowers shone like stars. He had laughed, then his voice full of joy. Vera could almost hear that laugh again now, and a familiar ache settled in her chest. A soft chime sounded, signaling that someone approached. Vera turned to see Minister Solemn stepping into the light. His face was grave, and he held a small datapad in one hand. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing low, "you asked me to look into Captain Reed's background. I have preliminary data." Vera nodded, pulling her cloak tighter around her shoulders. "Show me." Solemn tapped the datapad, and a hollow screen flickered to life between them. It displayed lines of text and genetic markers, rows of alien and human biothreads, side by side. Vera frowned at the strange symbols. "The human genome is, of course, distinct from ours," Solemn explained. "But I have found an anomaly. Certain protein sequences in Captain Reed's genetic code match, unexpectedly closely, the sequences found in our royal line. They appear in less than 1% of his genome, but they are identical to those in Lord Arlek." Vera stared at the holoscreen. The proteins she saw glowed softly in blue. They reminded her of the crystals in the palace walls. Steady, precise, impossible to ignore. "Explain," she commanded. "It may be a cosmic fluke," Solemn continued. "Spaceborne, microfauna, carrying genetic fragments across light years. Over centuries, these fragments could integrate into unrelated species. In your case, Majesty, a single microfaunal particle may have carried biothreads from this kingdom to Earth, embedding itself in the ancestral human line, right where you needed it. Vera closed her eyes against a sudden surge of emotion. The idea was astonishing and frightening. Could it be that Arlec's very essence had drifted through space, reached Earth, and become part of Captain Reed? Or was Solemn grasping for a theory to justify her feelings? "Continue your work," she said quietly, "but keep this between us. No alarms." Solemn bowed again. "Of course, Your Majesty." As he left, Vera sank onto a crystal bench and gazed up at the glowing canopy. Memories swirled. Arlec's embrace, the way he had held her hand so gently, the warmth of his words when she doubted herself. She pressed a hand against her heart, as if to keep those memories from slipping away. Meanwhile, Captain Jonah Reed finished his patrol and paused by the outer wall of the palace. From here he could see the vast ice plains stretching to the horizon, glittering under the faint light of the sister suns. He had never seen anything so beautiful. Back on Earth, ice was a frozen wasteland, dangerous, deadly. Here it sang with light and life. He ran a gloved hand along the alien masonry. The walls were alive with tiny vines that pulsed like veins, carrying nutrients and light. Humans had fought for centuries to terraform harsh worlds. Here, the aliens had shaped the world to fit their needs, blending biology and architecture into one seamless whole. Jonah admired the ingenuity. A soft voice greeted him from the shadows. "Captain Reed." Lieutenant Nara Toro stepped forward. She was one of the Queen's own guards assigned to oversee the human contingent. Her skin was pale lavender and her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "How are you finding the palace?" she asked, her tone polite. Jonah straightened. "I've never seen anything like it. The walls, the gardens, even the air feels alive." Nara smiled. "Our world thrives on unity between life and stone. It can feel overwhelming to newcomers." Jonah nodded. "It is, but I'm honored to serve here." She studied him for a moment as if weighing his sincerity. Then she turned, beckoning him to follow. "Come. The Queen wishes to speak with you again tomorrow before the joint exploration briefing. Be prepared." Jonah hesitated. "Is there something I should know?" Nara shook her head. "No. Just be yourself, Captain." With that, she slipped back into the night. Jonah watched her go, puzzled. He had followed her orders without question, but now he wondered why the Queen needed him. He had duties, yes, guard the halls, stand watch. But what special role did he play in her plans? Back in the gardens, Vera rose from the bench. She felt both exhilarated and anxious. Jonah Reed had already become more than a guard in her mind. He was a reflection of her past, a living question she could not ignore. She closed her eyes and let the memory of his respectful salute wash over her. She needed more information. She needed to understand if this was fate or a trick of genetics. With firm resolve, she strode toward the palace's central archives, the vast memory vault where all records of her world's history were kept. If she could find references to spaceborne microfauna or logs of ancient genetic experiments, she might learn whether Arlec's biothreads had truly drifted across the stars. Inside the archives, crystalline data spheres hovered in midair, each holding millennia of recorded knowledge. Librarian drones floated between them, emitting soft chirps as they organized and retrieved spheres. Vera approached a hovering drone and placed her hand on its cool surface. "K-272, she ordered. "Retrieve Project Echo." The drone chirped and whirred, then drifted away. A moment later, a sphere labeled Echo landed at Vera's feet. She lifted it and pressed it against her staff. A holographic file opened before her. Logs of an ancient scientific team that had studied spaceborne microfauna 1,000 years ago. Vera scanned the records. Scientists described how spores had traveled on solar winds, how tiny organisms had carried fragments of DNA from planet to planet. They wrote of the promise of the danger of genetic spread across worlds. One entry, dated centuries before Arlec's time, warned that these microfauna could create unpredictable links between species. Her heart pounded. This was proof. The world she ruled, the humans she now welcomed, were part of an ancient cosmic web, one that had bound her life to Arlec's memory, and now to Jonah Reed's reality. She leaned back and closed her eyes. A strange calm came over her. She had known loss, and she had known duty. Now she learned that both were part of something greater. The universe was vast but also intimate, a tapestry of life connected across light years. Vera tucked the hollow file into her cloak and turned toward the exit. Tomorrow she would face Jonah again. She would not hide from her past. Instead, she would embrace this new truth and let humanity's gift of empathy guide her. Outside, the gardens glowed softly as a gentle breeze stirred the frost lilies. Queen Vera walked among them, each step echoing her choice. To open her heart once more, to welcome the unexpected, and to forge a future where humans and aliens stood together not only in politics, but in shared destiny. In the echoes of memory, she had found a new path forward, and it was stronger for the ties that bound them all. The grand banquet hall gleamed under a sky of painted glass. Thousands of tiny lights drifted overhead, mimicking distant stars. Long tables carved from pale crystal were set with dishes of glowing fruit and delicate pastries. The air was warm, with the scent of spice and sweet sap. Aliens of every shape and color gathered in clusters, murmuring in dozens of languages. This was the first gala since the arrival of the human delegation, a chance for Queen Vera to show goodwill and for Captain Jonah Reed to step beyond his guard duties into the heart of her world. Vera stood on a raised dais at the far end of the hall, dressed in a gown of silver threads that shimmered like a falling star. She held her head high, her gaze sweeping over the crowd. Tonight she would speak of unity, of shared futures. Yet beneath her calm exterior, her thoughts kept drifting back to the human guard who haunted her dreams. When she saw Jonah enter the hall, flanked by Lieutenant Toros and two other human officers, her breath caught. He wore formal attire, a dark tunic with a simple crest of the United Earth Alliance stitched in gold. He looked out of place among the flowing robes and armored cerulean plates of the alien nobles, yet he carried himself with quiet confidence that set him apart for all the right reasons. Jonah paused at the base of the dais, waiting for Vera's signal. She offered a small nod. He stepped forward, keeping his posture straight, his eyes warm yet respectful. All chatter in the hall hushed, as every delegate turned to watch this moment. The Queen inviting a human guard to share her seat. "Captain Reed," Vera said, her voice stronger than she felt. "Please join me." He bowed, then climbed the dais and took the seat beside her, a gesture that shocked many but thrilled the human delegation. Toros and the other officers stood behind, vigilant but relaxed. Vera studied Jonah's face. In the glow of the lanterns, she saw once again the features that mirrored her lost consort, Lord Arlec. The strong brow, the thoughtful eyes, the gentle curve of the lips when he offered her a polite smile. Tonight, she would let herself ask the questions she had postponed. "Captain," she began, leaning slightly toward him so only he could hear. "Tell me of your home." Her tone was formal, but her curiosity trembled at the edges. Jonah took a breath. "Earth is a blue and green world, Your Majesty. It has oceans that stretch beyond sight and forests so deep the sun barely reaches the ground in places. We have deserts of red sand, mountains of stone, and cities that glow with light all night." He smiled at the memory. "My home city is by a great river. In spring, the cherry trees bloom and the air smells of flowers. It is crowded, noisy, and always changing. I love it." Vera closed her eyes for a moment, picturing the river and blossoms. She had never dreamed of cherry trees. "And your people?" she pressed. "What makes them proud?" Jonah's smile grew softer. "We value hope. Even when things go wrong, we find a way forward. We learn, we adapt, we help one another. Sometimes we fail, but we try again. That makes us strong." A hush fell over the hall as delegates listened to this simple truth. Alien rulers exchanged glances, impressed by the human captain's honest words. Vera felt her heart stir with pride, not just for her guest, but for humanity itself. She sipped the pale nectar at her side, then turned her full attention back to Jonah. "Your people have known war," she said quietly. "They have known loss. How do you bear that?" Jonah set down his cup and met her gaze with unwavering calm. "Loss changes us," he said. "It teaches us what matters. When I lost my partner on Earth, I learned that grief shows you how much you loved. It made me stronger, not weaker. I carry her memory with me and it helps me protect others." Vera's breath caught. He spoke of loss as if he wore it like armor, something she recognized all too well. There was a flicker of pain in his eyes, a truth she could not ignore. Lord Arlick had been lost in the void. Vera had learned to bury her grief beneath her duties. She wondered if Jonah carried a similar secret sorrow. "Your strength honors her memory," Vera said softly, placing her hand on the table between them. At her touch, Jonah glanced down, surprised, then looked back at her with warmth. "Thank you, Your Majesty." A murmur of approval rose from the guests. The moment was electric, charged with honesty and shared feeling. Several ambassadors from other systems leaned forward, seeking Vera's reaction. She straightened, letting the moment build. "My friends," she announced, raising her voice so all could hear, "we have much to learn from one another. Captain Reed's words remind us that hope endures, and that loss can teach us to value life more." She gestured to Jonah. "Let us welcome our human guests, not just as allies, but as teachers of resilience." Applause filled the hall. Vera felt a surge of satisfaction. She had spoken her truth, united her people in admiration for humanity's spirit, and shown that the bond between worlds could be more than politics. After the applause died, Vera leaned closer to Jonah again. "There is one more question," she whispered. "Do you feel drawn to this place? As if you belong here?" Jonah's brows rose. "I feel welcome," he said. "I feel duty first, but also curiosity, like there's more for me to learn. I never imagined I'd be at a royal banquet on an alien world." She studied his face. His eyes held no knowledge of her past. They were simply open, honest. She longed to ask him about the similarity between him and Arlick, but she held back. It was too soon. She needed to be certain of her feelings before risking his confusion. "Curiosity is a gift," she said instead and smiled. "Then you are most welcome here." The banquet continued with music and dancing. Alien musicians plucked strings that shimmered like water, and holographic dancers spun in midair, weaving light into patterns. Jonah excused himself politely after a while, offering to ensure the perimeter remained secure. Vera nodded, understanding both his duty and his desire to withdraw from the crowd. She watched him go, then turned back to the guests. Diplomats from the Orion Coalition approached with questions about Earth's technology. Scholars debated the ethics of biotechnical terraforming. Traders discussed mineral rights in the neighboring star cluster. All the while, Vera's thoughts drifted back to Jonah's face at the table with her hand on the crystal, the flicker of emotion in his eyes. He was not Arlick, yet he had a power over her that no one else had commanded in years. Later, as the hall emptied and the guests departed for their ships or lodgings, Vera remained behind. She walked down the dais steps and found Jonah standing by the entrance. The last of the lanterns dimmed, leaving only the glow from the painted glass sky. "Captain Reed?" she called softly. He turned, his posture shifting from guard to attentive guest. "Your Majesty?" She gestured to a small alcove lined with frost lilies and glowing vines. "Walk with me." They strolled together under the cooled light, the hall silent and waiting. Vera spoke first. "I asked you many questions tonight. Now I must ask one of myself. Why does your presence stir memories I thought were gone?" Jonah looked at her, concern in his eyes. "I do not know," he admitted. I did not intend to echo anyone in your life. She paused, searching his face. Do you wish to know more about yourself? About what you carry in your blood across the stars? Jonah hesitated. Then, with a quiet nod, he said, If it will help you find peace. Yes. Vera's heart lifted. Here was the answer she sought, not in secrecy or fear, but in honesty and mutual respect. She would share the truth of the genetic echoes she had discovered. She would invite him into her world not only as guardian, but as partner in discovery. They emerged into the night air, the sky overhead flickering with the dance of two moons. Vera stopped and turned to him, her decision clear. Tomorrow, she said, we will visit the Royal Biolab. There, you will see the records I have kept. Together we will learn what binds you to this world and perhaps to me. Jonah's gaze met hers, steady and sincere. I will be there, Your Majesty. As they parted ways, Vera felt a surge of hope. The mirror she had looked into tonight had reflected not only her past, but a future where humans and her people faced mystery together. And in that shared journey, she sensed that the bond between them would grow stronger than any memory, shaping the fate of both worlds. Before dawn, the Royal Biolab stood quiet beneath the pale light of Vera's twin moons. Its outer doors were made of living crystal, a lattice of glowing veins that pulsed softly as they breathed in the cool morning air. Inside, rows of biochambers hummed like gentle hearts, each containing living samples of flora, microfauna, and alien biothreads. Here, the secrets of Vera's world lay open to the most daring inquiries. Queen Vera and Captain Jonah Reed entered together, their footsteps echoing across the polished floor. Jonah paused, awed by the sight. Glass panels revealed swirling cultures of glowing spores, each tiny organism a traveler carried on solar winds, some as old as the kingdom itself. He reached out but remembered to keep his distance. Even a single touch could contaminate these fragile specimens. These are the microfauna, Vera explained, her voice low with reverence. They drift through space on solar gusts. Sometimes they carry genetic fragments from world to world. Jonah nodded, recalling Solemn's report. The same microfauna that linked my ancestors to your royal line. Vera led him to a larger chamber at the center of the lab. A soft blue glow shone behind its transparent door. Inside lay a crystalline pedestal, and on it 2 genetic holograms hovered side by side. One marked House of Vera, the other Captain Reed. They pulsed in time with the hum of the lab. These samples came from your blood test, Vera said, and from our royal registry. She tapped a control panel, and the holograms expanded. Threads of light arced between them, highlighting, matching sequences. Jonah frowned at the intricate patterns. They match here, and here, he pointed, but the rest of my code is human. Vera watched him trace the lines. Yes, a rare coincidence, or perhaps destiny. She smiled, softly. The chance of this happening is almost impossible. Jonah turned to her. Queen Vera, I did not ask for this link. I served to protect your palace, not to echo your past. Vera regarded him with thoughtful eyes. Yet here you are, bound by threads older than our histories. She placed a hand on the glass door. I summoned you because I trust you, not only as my guard, but as my partner in discovering the truth. He met her gaze. I will do whatever you ask. She pressed a button. The chamber's door slid, open with a soft hiss. Inside, the holograms contracted into glowing orbs, one silver, one bronze, hovering a few inches above the pedestal. Hold out your hand, Vera instructed gently. Jonah extended his palm. As he did, the orbs rose and hovered between them. Energy crackled in the air. Jonah felt a faint warmth, a hum of life, as if the orbs were alive. This is a resonance test, Vera said. It measures how well your biothreads interact with ours. A higher resonance means a deeper connection. Jonah swallowed and let the orbs drift closer. When they touched his skin, a ripple of light spread across his palm. The bronze orb glowed brighter, the silver dimmed. Vera frowned at the readings on her console. The resonance is stronger on your side, she murmured. It reacts more to your human code than to our royal strands. Jonah looked at her, puzzled. Does that mean our link is weak? She studied the console. Not weak, but unbalanced. It suggests that the microfauna fragment integrated more fully into your ancestors long ago. Here, on our world, it remained dormant, recorded in our registry. But on Earth, it evolved with your people, shaping you in ways we never understood. Jonah removed his hand and stepped back. So I carry a piece of your world, but you do not carry mine. Vera's lips curved in a gentle smile. Perhaps, or perhaps my code learned something from yours, in ways we cannot measure. She turned from the console and walked toward Jonah. Come with me. They left the biochamber and entered a narrower corridor lined with data archives. Vera guided him to a door marked Project Echo Full Logs. She tapped a sequence and the door glowed open. Inside, holographic pages floated in mid-air, each containing notes, drawings, and video logs from the ancient research team. Vera navigated through them, stopping at a grainy hollow recording of scientists studying floating spores. One scientist said, "These spores carry fragments of DNA. We believe they arise naturally from the winds of the galaxy." Another added, "If these fragments integrate into living beings, they could create linkages across worlds. It is speculative, but the implications are staggering." As Vera paused the recording, she looked at Jonah. They studied this for years, but then they abandoned the project. Political unrest, war, their knowledge was lost until now. Jonah stepped closer. So the link between us was recorded but never fully understood, until you pulled it back from the archives. Vera nodded. Yes, you awakened something in my world's history. Now we stand at a crossroads. She turned to him, sincere. I need your help, Captain. Will you work with me to learn more? About the microfauna, about our shared strands, and about the chance that brought us together? Jonah felt a swell of pride. I will, Your Majesty. I'll do everything I can. She smiled, relief shining in her eyes. Good, but be warned. Some in my court will see this as a threat. They may demand you be expelled, or worse. Jonah's expression hardened. Then I will stand guard for you, not just of your palace, but of your trust. Vera placed a hand on his arm. Your loyalty honors me, Captain. She guided him back into the central hall of the lab. But first we must secure these logs. No one may destroy this knowledge. She tapped a console and encrypted the entire Project Echo archive, setting firewalls and hidden backups. Jonah watched as layers of security locked into place. Even if someone tries to erase it, Vera said, they cannot. This knowledge will survive. Jonah nodded. Then we have a chance to learn, and perhaps to prevent future threats. Vera's eyes gleamed. Yes, knowledge is the greatest shield we have. They stepped out of the lab and into a bright atrium filled with living trees and flowing water, a stark contrast to the icy gardens. Vera paused by a small pool where tiny fish darted beneath the surface. These fish are from the same spores, she said. Their ancestors adapted to our icy lakes. Now they thrive here. Jonah leaned over the water, watching the fish. They remind me of Earth's trout. Quick, resilient, always moving forward. Vera smiled at his simple comparison. You see connections everywhere. He turned to her. My people learn by finding patterns in the world. Maybe that is why we resonate. She studied him, gratitude softening her gaze. Perhaps it is. Or perhaps it is something deeper. A call across the stars. Jonah met her eyes. Then let us answer that call. Together they paused in the atrium, two beings from different worlds united by ancient threads and a shared purpose. Above them, sunlight filtered through the crystal dome, scattering rainbows across the living garden. Below, the fish swirled in silver schools, unaware of the promise unfolding beside them. In that quiet moment, Vera felt hope bloom. She had faced her past and found not fear but possibility. With Jonah by her side, guard, ambassador, and now partner, she believed they could weave a future where humans and her people stood together, stronger for the echoes that bound them. And somewhere deep within the hidden reaches of the galaxy, the microfauna spores drifted on solar winds, carrying fragments of life, waiting for the next chance to connect two souls across the void. The dawn light filtered through the spires of Sovereign Citadel, painting the ice-blue walls with soft gold. Queen Vera stood on her balcony, gazing out over the frozen plains beyond. The memory of last night's revelations still stirred in her mind. She had discovered the deep link between her people and Captain Jonah Reed, and now a new day awaited, one shaped by the promise of shared knowledge. Below her, the courtyard bustled with activity. Human engineers and alien technicians worked side by side to ready a new terraforming device. The machine would harness the microfauna spores to speed the growth of frost-resistant crops on nearby worlds. It was a bold experiment, born of the bond between Vera and Jonah. If it succeeded, countless lives would benefit. Vera drew herself straighter. Today she would make their alliance official. She turned and walked back inside, her silver gown whispering over the crystalline floor. In the grand hall, representatives from allied systems gathered once more. Their faces reflected hope and curiosity. At the center of the room stood Jupiter Lev, an ambassador from the Iron Nebula, dressed in bronze armor etched with comet patterns. To his left, Ambassador Thea of the Verdant Realm wore living vines as jewelry. They whispered among themselves as Vera entered, flanked by her closest advisors. Jonah Reed stood beside her, dressed in a crisp ceremonial uniform. The gold and blue of Earth's flag adorned his shoulders. He bowed respectfully to each ambassador he met, his calm presence drawing nods of approval. Many delegates still remembered his words at the banquet, words that had shown the strength of human hope. When the murmurs died, Vera raised her hand. "Friends of the Citadel," she began, "we stand at a moment of great change. For centuries we have studied the galaxy from separate windows. Today our windows align. Captain Reed and I have uncovered an ancient link between our peoples. We have learned that life travels farther than we once believed, carried on winds of stardust. Today we choose to use that knowledge for peace and life." She motioned to Jonah. "Captain Reed has helped us understand how to apply this link. Together we have designed a device that uses microfauna to nurture frost-resistant crops. This technology will allow us to feed worlds once thought uninhabitable." Ambassador Jupiter Lev stepped forward. "Your Majesty, this is a bold plan. The Iron Nebula has struggled to grow food in our outer colonies. If your device works, it will save countless lives." Jonah nodded. "We will begin tests tomorrow on the fields beyond the southern ridge. The machine will spread spores in controlled zones. We will monitor growth, soil health, and ecological impact." Vera added, "We invite all of you to join our research council. Together we will share data and refine the technology. Let this device be the first of many partnerships between our worlds." A ripple of excitement ran through the hall. Ambassadors began speaking eagerly, offering resources and crews. The Verdant Realm pledged botanists. The Iron Nebula offered transport ships. A network of cooperation formed in real time. As the council formed, Vera glanced at Jonah. His expression was proud, but thoughtful. He turned to her and gave a small nod. It was their unspoken acknowledgement. They had crossed a great distance, from stranger to partner, from guard and queen to equals. After the council, Vera led Jonah to a private chamber overlooking the preparations. Below, sunlight danced on the metal of the terraforming device where gears and glass tubes awaited activation. "You have done more than guard me," Vera said softly. "You have shown me the strength of your people, and you have helped me see the value in our own ancient knowledge." Jonah smiled. "Your Majesty, I only followed the truths I know. Hope and unity guide us. I learned much from you as well, about patience, about the power of memory." Vera's eyes glimmered. "I have a gift for you," she said, She opened a small box and lifted out a pendant crafted from pale blue crystal. Its facets held tiny flecks of living microfauna. This is made from the spores we study. It carries the living link between our peoples. Wear it not as a reminder of what we discovered, but as a symbol of what we will build. Jonah accepted it, touched by the gesture. He fastened the pendant around his neck. The crystal glowed faintly against his uniform. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will wear it with honor." Vera turned away to gaze through the window. Below, technicians began to power up the machine. Gears turned, lights blinked, and within the glass tubes the spores stirred to life. Jonah joined her at the window. "Are you ready?" he asked. She nodded. "Let us see what hope can grow." On the fields beyond the southern ridge, the air was crisp with frost. Scientists in warm suits gathered around the device, which stood like a great metal flower with hoses and dispersal arms. Jonah and Vera arrived together. The humans and aliens working there fell silent at her approach, then bowed. "Begin," she commanded. A low hum rose as power flowed into the device. The arms rotated, spraying fine mist across the prepared soil. Under the shimmering light of the twin moons, tiny glowing droplets settled on the ground, each a microfauna spore ready to germinate. Hours passed as Vera and Jonah watched monitors. The device slowed, its task complete. The fields lay quiet, dotted with faint glimmers where the spores had landed. "This is only the beginning," Jonah said. "Tomorrow we will see sprouts." Vera smiled at him. "And in time, harvests." That night, as they returned to the palace, the air buzzed with excitement. Reports from scout drones showed signs of life emerging in the fields. Delegates spoke of scheduling their own tests. The alliance was taking root faster than anyone had dared hope. In a quiet corner of the palace gardens, Vera and Jonah paused beneath a frost lily tree. The blossoms glowed softly, petals trembling in the night breeze. "You have changed my world," Vera said, her voice low. Jonah reached for her hand. "And you have changed mine." She looked up at him, gratitude shining in her eyes. "Together, we have forged an alliance not just of politics but of shared destiny. We have faced echoes of the past and made them into fuel for the future." Jonah squeezed her hand gently. "May this be the first of many steps we take side by side." Vera nodded. "Yes, side by side." Around them, the palace stood quiet under the jeweled sky. Within its walls, a queen and her human partner had turned a chance genetic link into a beacon of hope for countless worlds. The microfauna spores drifted on solar winds, carrying hints of their partnership to corners of the galaxy, yet unseen, and, so with courage and curiosity, humanity and the Citadel stepped into a new era, one where the echoes of memory became the foundation for unity, and where the bond between two souls could reshape the fate of stars.